In this video, I'm going to show you how to do the questions on the practice quiz for Chapter 6. So here we go. For the first three questions, they're asking you to determine if it's direct or inverse variation. In order to do these, you want to check to see if x times y equals the same thing over and over again, or if y divided by x or x divided by y equals the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and do y divided by x on the division ones. So in this case, x times y, if you multiply these two together, equals 1, then 8. So it's definitely not x times y, so because they don't equal the same thing. So if I do y divided by x, then I'm going to get 1 over 1, then I'm going to get 4 over 2, and those are also not equal to each other. If you do the next row, you're going to get 9 over 3, so that equals 1, 2, and 3. So this is neither. It's not direct or inverse variation. For the second one, if I do x times y, multiply those two together, I get 120. Multiply those two together, it's also 120. The next row, 120, and the next row, 120. So x times y, it's constantly or consistently is equal to 120. So if I solve this for y, I get 120 over x. So it's inverse variation. And the equation is 120 over x. For the next problem, if I multiply x times y together, I get 7.5, then I get 120. So it's not x times y. So if I do y over x, then for the first row, I get 7.5 over 1. For the next one, I get 30 over 4. The next one, I get 52.5 over 7. And if you reduce these, they all equal 7.5. Same thing with the last one. So that means that y over x is equal to 7.5. So if you were going to solve for x, you would multiply both sides by x. So those would cancel. So you would get y is equal to 7.5x, and that is direct variation. So those are the variation problems. For the graphing, you need to do the HK. So for the first one, it's 0, 0. And for the second one, it's going to be 3, 1, which are these numbers. In this case, there aren't any. For the first question, the a value is 6. And for the second question, the a value is -4. So when you make your xy chart, the x times the y must equal the a value. So 1 times 6, 2 times 3, 3 times 2, and 6 times 1. Those multiply to 6. And then I'm also going to make those negative. -1, negative times -6, -2 times -3, -3 times -2, and -6 times -1. So the HK is 0, 0. So that means that your domain, x cannot equal 0, and for your range, y cannot equal 0, which are these two numbers. Means we cannot cross those lines. So I'm going to plot those points. So 1, 6, 2, 3, 3, 2, and 6, 1. On the other side, same thing, -6, 1, -3, 1, 2. Be careful here because the dots are underneath the numbers. -2, 1, 2, 3, and -1, 6. And as you go, your line should be getting closer and closer to the asymptotes without crossing them. For the second one, my xy is going to multiply to -4. So 1 times -4, 2 times -2, 4 times -1. If you want to use 8 and -1/2, you can. You don't have to, but you do need to have 3 positive and 3 negative x values. So -1 times +4, -2 times +2, -4 times +1, and I'm actually going to use -8 and +1/2. I'm going to draw in the HK, which is 3, 1. That means that the domain x cannot equal 3, and the range y cannot equal 1. And again, those numbers come from those numbers. To plot these points from this new origin, so I'm going to go 1, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, down 4, then over 2 and down 2. I'm graphing these numbers here. And then from the center, 1, 2, 3, 4, down 1. And then if I go to 8, that would be at 11. It would be at a half. Kind of hard to plot that point. Same thing on this side, so I can go to -8, which puts me around here, which is a half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Back to up 2, and then 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. This should be a smooth curve. Mine's a little messed up, but there you go. All right, for the next part, we have z. We split this into 4 parts. So the first part, z varies jointly with x and y. So z varies jointly with x and y. Remember, every equation has to have an a in it. Second part, solve for a. Okay, so z is -60 when x is 3 and y is -5. So -60 equals -15a, so a is equal to +4. Third step, you take the first equation and you fill in the a value. And that's the first answer. Again, the very first equation you wrote, you fill in a to it, and that's the answer to the first part. The next part, find z when x is 6 and y is 8. So now we use this equation, find z when x is 6 and y is 8. So if you multiply all those numbers together, you get 192. The next page, we're going to graph again. So in this case, the HK is 4, 0. The A value is 3. Domain x cannot equal 4, and the range y cannot equal 0. So I'm going to go ahead and graph that. For my xy chart, we're picking numbers that multiply to 3. So 1 times 3. I'm going to go ahead and do 2 times 1.5 and 3 times 1. If you want to do 6 times 1/2, that's fine. So -1 times -3, -2 times -1.5, -3 times -1, and I'm going to go ahead and use -6 and -1/2. So 1, 1, 2, 3. And I go to 2, which is 1.5. And then 3 is 1, 4, 5, 6 is a half. You can even do a half and then go up to 6 if you wanted to on this side. Even though I didn't really write that down, I know that it should be a half at 6 on the other side. -1, 1, 2, 3, -2, -1.5, -1, 2, 3, -1, and I can go all the way to -6, which is a half. And I can also do a half and go down to -6 here. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw that in. Again, you only need 3 x's and 3 positive and 3 negative x values. To continue on the quiz review for chapter 6, I'm going to go ahead and do number 9. So the HK values for number 9 are 0, -3. The h is 0 because there's no number in the denominator with the x. So that means that the domain is at x cannot equal 0. It could be anything else. And the range y cannot equal -3, but it could be anything else. The a value is -2, so we're going to be looking for numbers that multiply to -2. Now this is going to be a little trickier because, and you need 3 positive and 3 negative. So 1 times 2 and 2 times 1, or 1 times -2, 2 times -1. I'm also going to use 4. If you put a 4 where the x is, then this would be -1/2. And that's good enough. And then I'm going to go ahead and do -1, -2, -4, and +2, +1, +1/2. And maybe even flip the 1/2 and the 4 around. So 0, -3 for the HK is going to be down here. And then I'm going to go ahead and plot these points. So 1, -2, and then 2, -1, and then 4, 1/2. So if I do 1/2, I can also go down 1, 2, 3, 4. Same thing here, -1, 1, 2, -2, 1, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 at a half. And then at 1/2, 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't want to stay that point there for some reason. All right, and then go ahead and draw that. Now in this case, it's really close to the asymptote because the number is really small, and it just keeps getting closer and closer as it goes along. Just make sure you don't cross that line. For the next part, we're just going to factor as much as you possibly can, cancel like terms, and then you're done. All right, so factoring this, the numbers that multiply to -15, that add up to -2 in the middle, x minus 5, x plus 3. For the second part, the two things they have in common, they have a 2x in common, and that would leave you with an x minus 3. For the next part, the numbers that multiply to 12 that add up to 1 in the middle. So that's going to give you x plus 4, x minus 3. And then for the last part, these two have an x squared in common, and then you're left with an x plus 3. So now everything's factored completely. So now I'm going to go through and cancel all the things that are alike from top to bottom. So x plus 3 and x plus 3 will cancel. The x minus 3 and the x minus 3 will cancel. So at the top, you have 2x and x minus 5. And at the bottom, you have x squared and x plus 4. These, however, will reduce the x and the x squared. So your final answer will be 2 times x minus 5 over x times x plus 4, because you have one more x in the denominator than you do in the numerator. So one of the x's does cancel out. You can think of it as 2x times x plus 5 over x times x plus 4. If that helps you to figure out how one of them will cancel. For the second part, this is division. So that means that these two parts will be going in the numerator because you have to flip the second fraction. So if I factor this, your numbers that multiply to 12 that add up to 8 are 6 and 2. If I factor this one, that also goes at the top, the numbers that multiply to -6 to add up to 1 in the middle, and those numbers would be x minus 2 and x plus 3. On the bottom, this one right here, numbers that multiply to 10 and add up to -7. Okay, multiply to +10, add up to -7, or -5 and -2. And then the last one, this has to move to the denominator because you are doing division. So the numbers that multiply to 24 and add up to 10 are 4 and 6. Now I can go through and cancel the terms that are alike. -2 minus 2, +6 plus 6. That's it. So in the numerator, you have x plus 2 and x plus 3. And in the denominator, you have x minus 5 and x plus 4. For number 12, this is a multiplication. So at the top, I'm going to go ahead and put the numbers 9 times 21. The x squared, and I have x to the 4th at the top. That gives me x to the 6th. And then I have y and y squared. That's y to the 3rd. And then I have z to the 3rd and z to the 7th. That's z to the 10th. In the denominator, I have a 14 and a 36. X's, I have x squared. The y, I have y to the 3rd and y to the 3rd. That's y to the 6th. And then z to the 5th and z, that's z to the 6th. Now, if I separate these out, I can see that for the x's, I have 4 more x's at the top. I have 3 more y's in the denominator, and I have 4 more z's at the top. For the numeric values, you can just reduce these. You can put them in your calculator and reduce. I'm just going to go ahead and say 7 goes into that twice, and 7 goes into that 3 times, and that 9 goes into 36 4 times. So at the top I have a 3, and the bottom I have 2 times 4. So that's 8. And so that's my final answer because nothing else can reduce. For number 13. For number 13, it's division. We have to flip this one. So first I'm going to factor that. In order to factor this, you have to use the box method or the grouping method. So I'll do both in case you know both methods. So you have to multiply 6 times 2 times negative 6, which is negative 12, to get negative 1 in the middle. And that's negative 4 times 3. So if you're using the box method, you would put the first term, which is 2x squared, here, and the last term, which is negative 6, there. Then that middle term of negative 1x comes from these two numbers. So we're going to do negative 4x, positive 3x. So again, we're replacing that with these two numbers that we found. So for these two, we can take out a 2x, and that leaves you with a x minus 2, and then x times positive 3 gives me this. So these are my factors, x minus 2 and 2x plus 3. For this one, that's also going to go in the numerator because the second one is going to get flipped. So when I factor that, you can take out a 3, and that gives you x squared minus 4. But the x squared minus 4 is a difference of squares, so you have to factor it into x plus 2x minus 2. Now for the rest of it, I need to factor this. This has a greatest common factor of x squared. And if I take out an x squared from both of them, I'm left with an x plus 2. And this 6x plus 12, they have a 6 in common, and then you're left with x plus 2. When I cancel the terms that are alike, I get to cancel the x plus 2 with the x plus 2. And I get to cancel this 3 that goes into the 6 twice. So at the top, I have all of this left. I have a 2x plus 3. And then I have 2x minus 2. So I'm just going to write x minus 2 squared. They do not cancel because they're both in the numerator. In the denominator, I have these left. So I have a 2, an x squared, and an x plus 2. So I have a 2, x squared, and an x plus 2. And that's your final answer for that. For number 14, just going to make one big giant fraction bar. So this is the only one that flips. So the x plus 2 is at the top. This is going to be at the top. And this is going to be at the top because this is the only fraction that's going to flip. So then we factor the last part of this one, the numbers that multiply to negative 3, and add up to positive 2. Okay, multiply to negative 3, add up to positive 2, or those two numbers. Next, the x squared minus 1 is x plus 1. x minus 1. That's a difference of squares. The x squared plus 5x plus 6, numbers that multiply to 6, positive 6, and add up to positive 5. And then there's a 4x on the bottom. Okay, that comes from here. So now we go through and we can cancel all the terms that are alike. X plus 2, x plus 2, x minus 1 with x minus 1, x plus 3 with x plus 3. So now I have 8x squared at the top, and then I have 4x times x plus 1 at the bottom. I can still reduce this part. So that reduces to 2x, because 4 goes into 8 twice, and x squared, there's going to be 1x left, and then that's going to be x plus 1. For the next part, again, it's division, so it means you have to flip whatever follows the division sign. So all of this is going to be in the top. So I'm going to go ahead and write the numbers first, 6 and 10. I have x to the 6th and x to the 4th, y to the 3rd and y squared, and I have z squared and z squared. In the denominator, I have 15 and 24. I have x to the 5th and x squared, that's x to the 7th. I have y squared and y to the 3rd. And I have z to the 3rd and z to the 4th. So if I'm looking just at the variables, for the z, I have 3 more at the bottom. For the y's, they cancel out. For the x's, I have 3 more at the top. And for the numbers, I'm just going to reduce these again. 6 goes into 24 4 times. 5 goes into that 3 times, and 5 goes into that twice. So now I have a 2 at the top, and I have a 12 at the bottom, which I'm still going to reduce. So that gives me x to the 3rd over 6z to the 3rd, because 2 goes into 12 6 times. For the next part, you have to do long division in order to convert these. So I'm going to divide x minus 3 into 4x minus 6. So because that's a 4, we're basically going to use whatever that number is. So x goes into 4x 4 times. And then I'm going to multiply down. So that's going to give me 4x minus 12. And then I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to subtract that, and I'm going to subtract that, which makes it plus. So that's 6 is the remainder. So when you write your answer, the x minus 3 is the denominator. It remains the denominator. The 6 is going to be the a value. Okay, that's the a value. And, excuse me, this should be an x minus 3, not an x minus 6. That's x minus 3. And then the number that's up top is the k value. So that's going to be plus 4. Okay, so that's the equation that you use. And then you're going to do it the same way the other equations that you graphed look like. So x times y, we're going to do numbers that multiply to 6. And then the negative numbers that multiply to 6. The HK is going to be 3, 4 from these numbers. You always do the opposite of the H value. So the domain, x is not equal to 3. And the range, y is not equal to 4. So 3, 4. And I'm going to plot the points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And then 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. Let's graph these. And that's your answer to that. Same thing here, you're going to do long division. X plus 2 into 3x minus 2 goes in 3 times because of that number. So then we multiply down 3x plus 6. Then we subtract. That gives you a negative 8. So y is equal to negative 8 over x plus 2 plus 3. Okay, so the negative 8, that's the a value. The 3, that number, that's the k value, and that's your denominator. Okay, so your hk is negative 2, 3. The domain, x cannot equal negative 2, and the range, y cannot equal 3. Since the a value is negative 8, when we do our xy chart, the numbers have to multiply to negative 8. So 1, 2, 3, just kidding, 1, 2, 4, and 8. 1 times negative 8, 2 times negative 4, 4 times negative 2, 8 times negative 1. And then the same thing with the negative numbers. All right, so my HK is negative 2, 3. I'm going to go ahead and plot. That's a horrible line. Let me redraw that. Plot these points. So 1, negative 8. 2, 3, 4. Then 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1. Negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. Negative 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1. And then draw those in. All right, that's it for those. Number 18. First, let me fix this. I should say K, not A right there. So you're just writing the equation. There's no numbers at all. So Z varies directly with X and inversely with the square of Y. So inversely means you're going to have to put that in the bottom of the fraction. Okay. For the next one, Z, that varies jointly with K and the cube of B, and inversely, so that's the only part that goes on the bottom, the square root of C. So that one's finished. No numbers here, so you're just writing a general equation. For the last two, they do have numbers, so we're going to split this up into 4 pieces. So y varies inversely as x. That means you have a fraction. Second, you solve for a. Okay, so they say x is negative 4 when y is 3 halves. So then we multiply both sides by negative 4. So a is equal to negative 12 over 2 or negative 6. The next time you rewrite the original equation, but you fill in a. So negative 6 over x. So that's the equation, which is the original equation with the a value filled in. The last part is when you actually solve. You use this equation to solve. So it says find y when x is 2. So that would be negative 3. Okay. And then the very last question, the centrifugal force acted on the car. So I'm going to use F for force. Varies directly as the square of the velocity and inversely with the radius. So inversely means it goes on the bottom. So that's your general equation. Now we're going to solve for A. So when I solve for A, I have B is equal to 4. So this is 16 because this is B squared. R is equal to 8, and F is equal to 10. So then if I solve this, I'm going to have 10 is equal to 2A, or A times, if you reduce that. And so then we're going to divide by 2. So A is equal to 5, so I'm going to plug that in here. So 5B squared over R. Sure your R and your V look different. Mine look kind of the same. So F equals 5B squared over R. And then the last thing is we're going to use that. So we're going to say F equals 5. Not this part. Find F when B is equal to 6. So this is 36, because remember that's B squared. And R is equal to 4. So this part's 9. So this is 5 times 9. Or you could do that all in your calculator if you want to. So this is 45. So 45, and then we need units of force since it's a word problem. So that's everything. You should do the practice quiz on your own without looking at the answers and recheck it if you want to make sure you understand how to do this on your own.